breaking. Reports circulating online claim Brussels has announced a $120 billion Commonwealth Integration Pact, but that figure is not yet backed by clear official documentation. What is confirmed? The EU and Canada are moving to deepen security and defense cooperation. Here's what we can verify. Big geopolitical change rarely arrives with a single trumpet blast. More often, it appears in paperwork, in communiques, in new working groups. A video circulating online frames this moment as Europe choosing a new partner over the United States. It uses a dramatic headline, including a claim of a $120 billion Commonwealth Integration Pact announced in Brussels. It is a striking story, but it raises a basic journalistic question. What can we verify and what remains unproven? In this video, we will separate viral framing from evidence. We will look at what reputable reporting says about deepening cooperation between the European Union and Canada on security, defense procurement, and digital rules. And we will set it alongside a wider trend, Europe trying to reduce strategic vulnerability by widening its options. We will keep the language measured. The aim is clarity, not spectacle. Let's start with what we can confirm. Reuters reports that the European Union hosted Canada for a summit in Brussels. The stated aim was to deepen already close ties in a more tense geopolitical environment. Reuters also notes EU officials framed this as more than business as usual. According to that reporting, the two sides were due to agree a security and defense partnership. Reuters describes it as the first such partnership the bloc has struck with a country from the Americas. Now, to the viral claim, a $120 billion Commonwealth Integration Pact. From the sources reviewed here, that specific label and figure do not appear as a clearly documented EU announcement or widely cited Tier 1 report. Even the competitor video description uses cautious wording such as reports suggest. That does not prove the claim is impossible, but it does mean we should treat it as unverified unless and until it is supported by a published agreement, an official statement, or consistent reporting from multiple credible outlets. So the responsible approach is to focus on what is documented: a security and defense partnership, pathways connected to EU defense procurement finance, and talks on a digital agreement. Next, what does the partnership actually cover? Reuters sets out what this partnership is expected to involve. It includes joint work on crisis management. It includes cybersecurity. It includes maritime security. It includes space security. It also covers arms control and continued support for Ukraine. These are not vague talking points. They are specific domains where cooperation can become routine and institutional. In modern security planning, this matters because conflict and coercion do not sit neatly in one box. Cyber incidents can hit ports and energy networks. Space assets can affect communications and intelligence. Supply chains can decide whether equipment is delivered in time or not at all. This is where alliances evolve, not just through speeches, but through the technical architecture beneath them. And that takes us to the most consequential piece for industry: procurement finance, and a program known as SAFE. Reuters reports that the partnership would pave the way for Canadian companies to access the EU's joint procurement program, SAFE. Reuters cites the headline figure, 150 billion euros. SAFE stands for Security Action for Europe. In plain terms, it is designed to help participating states increase defense investment quickly, using an EU-backed loan instrument. This is also described in official EU material. The EU Council's SAFE policy page explains SAFE as an EU instrument providing loans of up to $150 billion to support rapid and significant increases in defense investment. So why does access matter? Because defense procurement is not only about strategy, It is about standards, eligibility, and long-term contracts. It is about who can supply components, deliver maintenance, and scale production. If a partner country's firms can plug into procurement pathways that can reshape business incentives over time. But we should be careful. Access does not guarantee contracts. Rules and project design still decide who benefits and how. Still, the direction is clear. Europe is trying to build resilience in defense supply and financing, and it is doing so with partners it sees as reliable. Next, there is another strand that often gets overlooked: digital rules. Reuters also reports the EU and Canada were expected to launch negotiations on a digital agreement. The purpose, in Reuters' description, is to shape global rules for data, with examples including e-signatures, consumer protection, and limits on spam. This matters because the modern economy is not just physical trade. It is data flows. It is digital identity. It is platform governance. And increasingly, it is how AI systems are regulated and trusted. When major markets align their rules, it can reduce friction for businesses operating across both. It can also create a powerful gravitational pull where third parties adapt simply to keep market access smooth. Reuters notes these are areas where the United States has criticized the EU's regulatory approach. That is relevant because it underlines a real tension inside the broader transatlantic relationship. Security cooperation may remain, but regulatory philosophy can diverge. So far, we have security cooperation, defense procurement finance, and digital alignment. Now we zoom out to trade diversification, including reported EU discussions with the CPTPP bloc. Politico reports that the European Union and the CPTPP, a 12-nation Indo-Pacific trade bloc, are opening talks to explore closer ties. The report also says Canada is spearheading discussions. The most technical but most important idea in that report is rules of origin and a process known as cumulation. Here is the simple version. In a world of complex supply chains, a product's nationality is not obvious. A finished good might include parts from many countries. Rules of origin decide what the product counts as for tariff purposes. Cumulation, as described in this context, aims to make it easier for manufacturers across linked agreements to combine parts and still qualify for low tariff treatment. Politico describes this as a way to intertwine supply chains and make trade more seamless across the blocs. If this progresses, it would not be a symbolic switching sides. It would be a practical strategy. Build options, reduce exposure, and keep trade flowing even when politics becomes more unpredictable. Now let's bring it back to earth. What does this mean, and what does it not mean for ordinary people and businesses? Let's be precise and avoid inflated claims. First, defense industry. If Canadian firms gain a route into procurement pathways connected to SAFE, that can create opportunities, particularly for firms already able to meet strict procurement and security requirements, but it can also concentrate benefits amongst larger suppliers with the capacity to handle compliance, certification, and long delivery timelines. Second, standards and regulation. A digital agreement can make cross-border operations smoother for some sectors, but regulation is never free. Firms may face new documentation and compliance costs, especially where consumer protection and platform safety rules are tightened. Third, the broader strategic point. The story here is less Europe abandons America and more Europe reduces single-point dependency. This can happen whilst alliances remain intact. It is how hedging works in practice. Add relationships, add routes, add financing tools, Add standards alignment. And finally, the viral claim check. If a $120 billion Commonwealth Integration Pact exists as described, the evidence trail should be visible. An official EU press release, a joint statement, a published agreement, or repeated confirmation by multiple credible outlets. Until then, it remains unverified and should be presented with caution. So, what should viewers watch next to judge whether this is a genuine structural shift or simply noise? Here are 5 practical indicators to watch. 1. Published texts, joint statements, signed agreements, and clear implementation timelines. 2. Safe mechanics, eligibility rules, procurement categories, and whether participation translates into real bids and contracts. 3. The scope of the digital agreement, whether it remains narrow or expands into broader questions of AI governance and platform enforcement. 4. Whether EU CPTPP discussions move from exploration to negotiation with measurable deliverables. 5. Business behavior, because procurement incentives and standards often shape reality faster than rhetoric. So, is Europe choosing Canada over America? From the evidence we can cite today, a more accurate framing is this: Europe is widening its options in security cooperation, in procurement finance, in digital rules, and in trade architecture. Which do you think drives long-term power more? Defense deals, trade rules, or digital standards?